Many thanks for the invitation to be with you this morning. On this Earth Sunday, we are still in early spring, which is alive with unpredictable and changing weather. We're coming out of a long winter of upheaval on many fronts, but the return of the light and warmth is a wonderful feeling, isn't it? As the rebirth of flowering trees and plants inspire us as well. May the beauty that surrounds us sustain us going forward in these challenging times. We are between worlds, as the poet William Butler Yeats said so eloquently, one dying, the other waiting to be born. My question today is, how will we respond to our present moment of disintegration? How will we help birth a new period in our planetary history? The pre-pandemic world of a year ago and the post-pandemic world on the horizon invites us to think more expansively, to imagine more creatively, to wonder how we will change our ways of being human, a species still searching to embody the wisdom of its name, Homo sapiens. Here is one way to start, with an invitation into deep time. Namely, evolutionary time of a 13.8 billion-year-old unfolding universe. This gives us a comprehensive context for more inclusive action and ever-broadening compassion. A larger story can ground us in who we truly are and where we need to go. It can provide a sense of wholeness and belonging. We are not just part of a nuclear family, but part of an Earth family, related to all peoples and all species. We're not just citizens of a country, but citizens of the planet. This is a call to break out of our clans and clubs, nationalisms and statisms, to join the larger community of life. As we do so, our consciousness and our conscience changes and grows. We become aware of how dynamic and varied our Earth community is, and how vast our universe is. Within our planetary system, we are surrounded by more than 1 trillion galaxies that broadens our identity beyond anything we could have imagined. Indeed, we now know that we belong to the universe as well as the Earth, for all the elements of life came out of the explosion of stars. Supernovas provide the basis for life. Thus we can say the stars are our ancestors. Let us begin our journey then into deep time. Might we move, as geologian Thomas Berry called us, from a singular focus on several thousand years of salvation history to embrace Earth history, from biblical time to ongoing creation time. This is an invitation into the geological and biological time of our planet's unfolding over 4.5 billion years. What a miracle this is. And the further invitation is to see our planetary evolution within the context of the evolution of stars, galaxies, and planets. What does this opening of the fullness of time entail? We are being invited into the sacred continuity of cosmos, Earth, and human, to image ourselves dwelling in evolutionary time and ecological space is the call of our historical moment. For this leads to a wellspring of awe that evokes action and reverence that engenders responsibility. If we have arisen from a 13.8 billion-year-old universe, and if life began with the first cell several billion years ago, is not the marvel of all life enhanced, humans and more than humans? Is not our love extended? Is not our humility arising? Let me say, we have lots to draw on, even before the Journey of the Universe film and book that came out a decade ago. Clearly, liturgies like this will inspire people, as does the Earth Mass with the coming of the animals on St. Francis's feast day, that Earth Mass composed by Paul Winter and now replicated across the country. In addition to prayers and liturgies, there are biblical, theological, and ethical resources to be explored for reflection on ecology and justice. This is what we are trying to do with the Yale Forum on Religion and Ecology here at Yale and beyond. It is why Psalm 104 is a brilliant reminder of our cosmological and ecological embeddedness in deep time. Let us note many who've been leading the way over the last half century, expanding the Christian tradition into the universe story and integrating this with the call for justice. John Cobb and other process theologians are bringing us into evolutionary time. Matthew Fox has urged us into creation-centered spirituality. Ecofeminist theologians such as Sally McFaig call us to see Earth as God's body, while Rosemary Ruther invites us to embrace both Gaia and God. Mark Wallace and Catherine Keller ask us to enter the depths of the Spirit from the beginning of time. Latin American liberation theologians such as Leonardo Boff and Ivani Jabara are highlighting cosmology, ecology, gender, and justice. African American theologians like Melanie Harris call for healing with the earth. And Willie Jennings, our wonderful colleague at Yale Divinity School, asks the question, where is our doctrine of creation? Without it, he wonders, how can we protect the earth and all its creatures? And there is more, for he affirms, as have indigenous peoples, that the earth is animate and communicative. Earth is alive and interrelated. What a marvelous challenge for Christian theology and ethics to embrace and respond to. We have a lot to draw on here, don't we? There's now a robust lineage of thoughtful Christian eco-theologians and ethicists of eco-justice who are calling for an expansion of our tradition. They are wondering, how can we embrace human suffering and work for justice within the large context of Earth and cosmos? How can this not be part of the post-pandemic world waiting to be born? And what of the logos at the beginning of time, the inner ordering principle of all reality that we hear of in the opening of John's Gospel? This is the sacred dimension of all matter within the evolution of the cosmos, earth, and humans. This is what Thomas Berry called interiority. As Berry noted, everything in the universe is differentiated. Everything has interiority or subjectivity. And everything is in communion with everything else. This is the fundamental principles and spirit of Journey of the Universe. So again, this is my question for us today. As we dwell in this transition time, might we ask, what is shifting, turning, calling us forward? Is this not a moment to image ourselves into earth time and cosmic time, what Ephesians spoke of as a plan for the fulfillment of time? We are living within the seasons of nature's life and dwelling within the great transitions of Earth's life, from the emergence of the first cell to the explosion of flowering plants to the rise of amphibians, birds, and mammals. Can we imagine ourselves arising from the savannas of Africa some 6 million years ago to become Homo sapiens 200,000 years ago? Doesn't this perspective release new energies for the work ahead? This evolutionary context gives rise to wonder and awe, which in turn inspires commitment and action for transformation. Here is a basis for enlarging our sense of wholeness and belonging. This is what we are offering in Journey of the Universe, and our students sense this as well. Let me tell you about Zach Garcia in my office over a year ago with the book Journey of the Universe in his hands, reading a passage and weeping. He says, "Now I know where I belong, and now I know what I can do." This gives us a new zest that Thomas Berry hoped to evoke from humans. This zest is the human energy needed to establish transformative societies, one that will care for the well-being of people and the planet. This is the invitation of the Pope's encyclical Laudato Si to embrace an integral ecology where the cry of the earth and the cry of the poor are truly heard. This is also what we are trying to do in the journey conversations that accompany the film and the book. They are interviews of 10 scientists and 10 environmentalists and activists. The scientists are helping us to understand the great story that awakens this sense of complexity and wonder. The environmentalists and activists are inviting us into the great work of transformation of communities, both local and global. Let me give just one example. Belvy Rooks took African American students, 8th graders in Watts in LA for a whole summer in a course called From the Streets to the Stars. She herself, part of the migration from the South, and getting them to understand their history, human history, their earth history, and their cosmic history. It was an explosive moment. At the end of the summer, all the families gathered for this story. Other parts of the conversations include indigenous peoples as well, and what is a new economics, what are eco-cities, how the arts and education can contribute. So what does this mean then for our moment today as we're expanding our consciousness and conscience? It means we're awakening simultaneously to deep time and comprehensive compassion. As we sense ourselves belonging to something this large and this vast, we also feel ourselves drawn toward a more tender love, a young love, alive with discovery and yearning for justice. We bring this love back to earth with a broader sense of community. Can we imagine moving from pandemic time to new time, when African Americans, Native Americans, Latinos, Asian Americans will not be subject to prejudice, imprisonment, and death, but will achieve dignity along with voting rights, education, jobs, and health care? When nurses and doctors will be celebrated, when workers in stores and factories will be thanked, when farmers and teachers will be valued, when live music will lift our spirits in concert halls and clubs, when the earth, too, is allowed to sing and to heal, when the cosmos speaks to us through the luminosity of the stars, the steady movement of the planets, and the ever-expanding universe. Isn't this all part of our new story? How do we get there? With poetry, prayer, and imagination guiding us, within this broadened context, our prayers and our poetry will also be wider. We've heard this with Wendell Berry and Mary Oliver and many others. I will conclude today by sharing a prayer poem by Catherine DeVink. She wrote these inspiring verses just 2 months ago when she celebrated her 99th birthday on February 20th. I like to think of this as Psalm 104 for the 21st century. On my birthday, 99 years, Catherine DeVink, I bow to the north and to the south, to the east and to the west. I bow to the sky, enameled blue, and to the plump, traveling clouds. I bow to the ancestors, women tracking the bison's herd, men building shelters, making fire. I bow to the children born and unborn, holding the future hidden in their genes. I bow to the animals, to the fox trotting in the woods, as well as to the snail housed in its porcelain shell. I bow to the light ascending every morning. I bow to the night, to its dark portals, and to the pale moon ever at work, pulling the tides, mirroring the sun. I bow to the rain dripping from the roof, feeding streams released to the sea. I bow to the stars, to their fiery tremors held in the immense vastness of space. I bow to the plants and trees, to berries and apples. I bow to all that is open and welcoming, the calyx of flowers, the heart of lovers. I bow to all my years past and present. I bow to death waiting at the corner, ready to take me to a new way of being, to larger territories of exploration. I bow to the one we call God, unknown to us, yet more here than what we feel and touch and smell. I bow to life and all its history and shape. I bow forever in thanksgiving and love. Thank you.